Hi, I'm Pete Novice. I'm in Los Angeles, California.
Hi, and I am Kitten McCreary Novice. I am also in Los Angeles, California.
What?
Go figure, we're
I know.
back!
It's been a long time, but we're now in the same side of the ocean. So we figured why not pick this up again.
Yeah, so we just went and saw Blade Runner 2049, hopped in the car, came back here, have been biting our tongues, not talking about it on the drive home.
It was difficult.
So this might be definitely our rawest and perhaps our strangest review ever. So
Okay.
Pete, Blade Runner.
Yeah, so this movie picks up, 35 years after the original Blade Runner? Which, if you haven't watched it, go watch it, because you won't understand anything about this movie, or you won't understand it in the right ways if you haven't seen it yet. Also, it's really good, so...
Go watch it, we'll wait.
Waiting. No, but this movie picks up there. It continues the story of the society as it was. We're following a new Blade Runner who we're told essentially right off the bat that he is a replicant. But he's a nice, obedient replicant, so it's okay. He only hunts down the bad ones. And that, story goes from there. How did you feel about this movie? And the sort of general,
There are so many things that I enjoyed about this movie. I mean, it's definitely eye candy. It's something that's very, it's just lovely to look at. The art direction, the production design for this was incredible. Overall, I feel like, I don't know, and this is sort of spoiler free, although later there might be spoilers, so you might want to go see the movie before, and, well, yeah. But overall, I feel like this was a plotting look at a society that is just very much about the subjugation of a people and the controlling of women's reproductive rights.
Yeah, so it's really keeping in the theme of science fiction movies in general.
Yeah. Very heavy-handed.
Yes.
In places.
I would say, in fact, ham-fisted with its message at many times. I liked it more than I thought I was going to, mostly because I've had a lot of people be like, "Ew, it was so stupid, it wasted 3 hours of my life." I don't think it was that bad. Mostly because I think they tried, wherever possible, to stick to the feel of the original movie. I think where this movie falls short is when they did that too slavishly. There are characters and scenes and moments that are really just copies of things in the original. It felt like, oh, people liked that, let's do that again. Yeah, you want to get into some of the specifics of why you feel the way you do?
Some of the specifics of why I feel the way I do.
Notes.
Yeah, notes.
So many notes.
One of the notes that I took while sitting in a dark theater, so the writing is horrible. One of the notes that I took just says, "So many white people."
Yeah, which is surprising, given that the original was it's this super blended society, and I mean, okay, let's not gloss over it. The original one, all the lead characters were still white,
Right?
Even though they were surrounded by ethnics to make it feel gritty and
Yeah. There's just so many white people. You had a couple of actors of color making sort of cameo appearances. One of the African American males plays a child trafficker, and the other African American male plays a
pawn shop owner?
yeah, like a sleazy pawn shop owner.
Those are positive roles, right?
Right. That's it. That's it. You had your brief cameo from Edward James Olmos.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was
nice to see him.
Yeah,
nice to see him back.
But again, you see him again just very briefly, and and as the character should be. So I'm not saying that this didn't work, but he still was just run down and useless. because our protagonist goes to him and is like, hey, I need help, I need information, and Edward James almost is basically like, meh, screw you.
Can we talk about the brilliant, charismatic, dynamic performance brought to the screen by Ryan Gosling?
God, can we not?
I was watching it and I was like, I don't understand why people like to drive. And I don't understand why he keeps getting these roles. I honestly think that I could use a brick as a puppet and it would have more emotional connection to the audience than really most of what he does. Like, I get that, like, he's playing literally a robot who's trying to, like, figure out if his feelings are real, but you have to have them on some level,
right,
in order to have conflict with them.
Right, in the beginning of the movie, I was on board with his very monotone, very flat, squinty rat-faced delivery of everything, because I was like, no, he's like, no, I'm a robot. I do my job. I'm here. I was specifically designed to be obedient and not ask questions. But then as we start getting into points where he should have had emotions, he's connected to his holographic girlfriend, he doing
the chair across the room.
He did.
We got 4 seconds of anger.
Flat. Even the point where even when he's reaching this point, even when he's reaching this point of weeping, he weeps. He weeps. Very flat, very disconnected weeping.
Can we talk about how every single character in this movie has a moment where they're just like staring at the camera with like tears running down their cheeks and they're like motionless and silent, but they feel a lot.
Right. Yeah.
Like everyone.
and at first I was like, oh, they're gonna make all of the women replicants cry.
No, it's just everyone.
But then eventually it's like, nope, everybody cries. Everybody. So I guess that levels the playing field
I don't know.
a little bit.
So there were. So I'm going to talk some thematic issues that I had with this movie, and then a couple of technical issues that I had with this movie. This sort of felt like a mashup between like the Jurassic Park, like life finds a way, and like a shitty Matrix sequel that's like, actually, there's something even deeper going on and you're at the center of a bigger conspiracy.
That's just a piece of the puzzle.
No, like honestly, the first 2/3 of the movie, I felt we're cruising along in pretty solid Blade Runner fashion, and then they were like, wait, what if there's this like underground conspiracy thing, and there's this bigger, and it wasn't necessary. It came from nowhere.
Yeah, I mean, really, we could have done without the entire last half hour of the movie.
Well, honestly, what I would have cut, there are 2 big action sequences that are totally out of place in this world. They're just there because they're like, you know what, we should have like a bunch of shit blow up and we should have people punch each other a lot.
Yeah.
Like, but they're all robots, so nobody really gets hurt.
Because they are less than.
Here's my other really weird thing. So apparently in the future, unless you are our gorgeous lead, if you're a guy, you're like really weird and quirky and you've got like a funky shaped head and your personality's kind of off. But if you're a woman, you might have like some sort of like punk fashion sense, but you are stunning. Like even the boss cop was clearly a former like supermodel.
Okay.
Like when she was 30, she was like, well, I guess it's time to get into law enforcement.
Yeah.
Which, like,
I really think that's how the future's gonna go, though. Women are just gonna keep getting better, and men are just gonna, like, slide down the face of the cliff.
Men are just gonna continue turning to, like, sex robots for relationship fulfillment.
Right. Or giant sex statues, or giant, like...
I don't know, man. I don't know. Yeah.
So many naked women in this movie, so...
But I felt like they really captured the aesthetic of the original movie really well.
Yes.
That was what I was really worried about going into this, is that they were going to lose that feeling of like, oh, let's just stick a character in their car for 5 minutes and let them think about things. Because like that's kind of what I like about the original.
And they had moments of that I actually really enjoyed.
Yeah. A major failing of this movie, which, okay, so little history lesson here. So Ridley Scott makes Blade Runner, right? And he's like, here's this movie. And then they go to some like test audiences and all the network executives are like, people didn't get it. We better explain these scenes to people. We'll like put a bunch of voiceover and stuff over it so everyone knows what's going on. And everyone kind of hated that, and like now the generally accepted version of Blade Runner that is good is the one that doesn't have the voiceover.
The director's cut.
So now in this movie, they were like, you know what, I'm worried that people won't understand it. We'll have to put in a bunch of like flashbacks and like we'll replay lines from previous scenes so everyone understands what this later scene is referring back to, and like, you know what, come on, people making movies, like, let us leave the theater and still have some questions. Let us go home and think about it.
And or even if it's not walking out and having questions, hey, people making movies, trust your audience. Don't just assume that everyone is an idiot. And if they are an idiot, that's what the internet's for. They can look it up.
It's fine. They know people like us. We'll explain it to them. It's gonna be okay.
Yes, we will trap them in the coffee shop and explain it to them.
All right. What's up with the insane, over-the-top villain in this movie? Like, what on earth is his motivation? Like, you'll have to see these scenes.
Oh, I can tell you.
Oh, right. He's a frustrated guy.
He is a frustrated white man. He is a frustrated white man who starts off his whole thing. He comes out and he says, and again, this is the points where I'm like, your point is they're just hammering that home, aren't they? Where first he's like, oh, we had these things that we used to control and things were great, and then we reached the point where we couldn't control them anymore. And he says, the line is, we have lost our taste for slavery. But he's saying that like it's a bad thing. And he's going on to talk about the fact that now he's going to make these whole new replicants because it makes slavery okay again. But because he can't make the replicants quickly enough, he wants to be able to control how they reproduce.
He wants replicant babies.
He wants replicant babies. And in this, he also has like, he's made this replicant, right? She comes sliding naked out of her phlegm sack. And he talks to her for a bit, or he talks at her while she's like shivering and naked and afraid. And he's talking about her sense of identity and the fact that even though she doesn't really know who she is, she wants to hold on to this identity. And basically everything about her identity is consumed in her ability or lack thereof to procreate, and then he kills her because she can't procreate. Ah!
And it's
I'm a little mad.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, those things are fine to have in a character to be like, this guy is fucked up in the head and really evil. But they don't make any sense with his motivation. Like, he says, you know what, I think we should populate more planets. But we don't have enough robots to do that with.
Right.
And that really frustrates me. We can't make them fast enough. So I'm gonna destroy this new one that we just made, just, because that's how I feel. Like, this,
I'm having a tantrum.
I don't buy that this guy would be in the position that he is in this society. And
especially since she was supposed to be a new model of of all the things they're making, like, hey, this is the next step, this is the next evolution in our replicants. No, gonna stab her in the womb.
I do need to pick up my notes because I threw them prematurely in a moment of frustration.
Oh.
That's the kind of guy who's going to kill a replicant.
Yeah, and I have so many, like, most of my notes from this movie tie into things like that, where they're like, oh, the world is built on a wall. Talking about, hey, there needs to be one and there needs to be the other. And as soon as people realize there's similarities, everything falls apart and you lose control. God damn it.
But see, I think you're reading that in as being the message that the movie's pushing.
I don't
and that's
think...
the opposite of the message it's pushing.
Right, I don't think that's the message that the movie is pushing. Because I do think the construction of them looking at it being like, no, making these dividing lines is a bad thing. Treating women like this is a bad thing. But I just think it was very clumsy. I have another note in here that says woman suit. When our replicant wants to be able to have like for realsy sex with his holographic girlfriend. So his holographic girlfriend gets a prostitute and then basically shimmers over her so they can do that. So he gets to have sex with this one woman while pretending it's this other woman who he'd rather have sex with because the other woman is unattainable.
And wasn't that already done as a movie? Like 4 or 5 years ago, there was like a movie where like...
Oh, there's been so many like shapeshifter kind of like, here, you put on this
like
form
I have to
be
create
this
you into the person that I want. But there was one that like specifically revolved around that.
Right.
I don't know. You all know it.
And again, it was a whole like that whole scene to me. Just despite the fact that I love Mackenzie Davis, who played the role of the prostitute. I'm not even sure if her character had a name.
She's the Pris knockoff.
Yeah, and she's a pivotal character. She's pretty important as the movie rolls along. But it was, the whole scene was just completely pointless. And again, you have him with this very flat, like, I might actually be a real boy, and I'm being presented with this opportunity to do this thing that I've always wanted to do and never been able to. Yeah, okay. This is nice.
And I mean, even, my problem with the scene was, everything relevant about that scene happened in the first 30 seconds. And then we spend like 3 more minutes watching these like 2 women like simultaneously take their clothes off, and it was just I felt like there were a lot of moments like that in this movie where it was just sort of the filmmakers like beating us over the head with the filmmaking technology that they've got.
Right.
And it was like, oh look, we can make this character like merge with this one and like not merge, and come on guys, just tell the movie,
Tell the movie.
Tell the movie. Tell it.
Yeah, just tell the movie.
Yeah. I don't know. Where do you feel like we land overall on this? Like, I feel like people now know what to expect.
Right. Overall, I would say, if you're a Blade Runner fan, if you're a fan of sort of like gritty, futuristic sci-fi.
If you really liked Drive.
Yeah, but we're not talking to those people. You're not our audience. I don't know, you might be. You like what you like. That's fine. We won't judge you for it.
We
will. I definitely think people should see this movie. I think it's lovely. I do find myself wondering if there is going to be a director's cut of this that will somehow be 4 hours long.
Honestly, I think the director's cut would bring it back down to 2 hours.
Probably. And if there is going to be a director's cut, I would very much like to see it, because I think Ridley Scott does a much better job bringing his things to fruition than...
He didn't direct this because he's dead.
Well, that's true.
As Denis Villeneuve. What's his last name?
Villeneuve?
Villeneuve. He's French or something. It's really artsy.
Yeah.
I mean, he's super famous, and I should know his name. Like, I work in this industry. I have no excuse for not knowing how to, but
it's all right. We'll IMDb it later, and we'll put a picture and a name right here.
We can do that.
I think we can. Hey,
wait, can we like have
shivers? We'll put your holographic director over your real director.
Wow.
Overall, I think people should go see this movie. I do think it's lovely, and I do think it talks about some important things, even if it does so rather heavy-handedly. And I think, like, at least at this time of watching this movie, which is in October of 2017, and the current political climate and everything that's happening, these are some very terrifying and very real prospects of what could be happening to our future. Not with robots, but to actual people. So
Whoa! I think the point of the movie is robots are actual people.
they're more human than human.
Yeah. You remember? Because that was in the first movie. So we have to say it again, then everyone knows it's related.
Right. So yeah, I would definitely say go see it. I give it, a thumb like 3/4 of the way.
That's not how we do ratings here. How many robot eyeballs out of 5 robot eyeballs do you give this movie?
Out of 5 robot eyeballs, I'm going to give this 3 3/4 robot eyeballs.
Fractions. It's gonna make this math really hard to do on the fly.
Because you've got a fraction too, don't you?
No,
Why?
I don't. I'm gonna land at a solid 3 robot eyeballs out of 5 robot eyeballs, which puts us in at 3 3/8 robot eyeballs. Personally, I would say, like, if you like Blade Runner a lot, if you're a sci-fi person, go see it. Don't expect that it's going to be like one of your like lifetime top 10 sci-fi movies. It's decent. I think other things do this better.
Yes.
Mostly the original Blade Runner.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Although I fully expect to see many, many, many people going to their sci-fi and other geek culture conventions over the next few months, dressed as replicants.
I'm gonna go as
let me
the
down.
bald guy in the black latex like jumpsuit thing, who's like really weird in the archives.
There you
Because
go.
in the future, men are all really weird.
It's true. In the present, men are all really weird.
Alright, whatever. I have no reply for that.
Thank you all so much for joining us for the triumphant return of the Naked Critics. See how triumphant it is. With both of us here in LA now. Yay.
Yeah.
And for the record, this is so awkward.
It's not awkward at all. See, that's how they know it's not just like split screen. Or is it? Whatever. For the Naked Critics, I'm Pete.
I'm Kitten.
Have a good day.